Hey Reddit. What evil prank have you pulled off? Please subscribe to support the channel. And share your best weird prank in the comments. Two of my friends have never met each other. Before they spoke, I told both of them that the other is a bit deaf. They shouted at each other for a few minutes before they realized that I'm an asshole. I mean, this is the perfect prank. There's a little bit of embarrassment, but mostly just confusion on both of their parts. Also, since you're pranking two people, nobody feels singled out. AITA for pranking two of my friends who've never met each other by telling both of them that the other is a bit deaf. NTA, it was hilarious. My mum's laptop wallpaper was a picture of her granddaughter. I copied the picture 100 times and made her wallpaper a slideshow of the same picture over and over again. So the file would change, but nothing would change visibly on the monitor. The pictures would change every 10 seconds. On one of the images I painted a tiny little curly mustache on her. So randomly for 10 seconds my niece would have a mustache. My mum thought she was either losing her mind or had a computer virus, and every time the mustache popped up, it was gone by the time she tried to show anyone. You show potential. Big time. I second that. Still laughin'. Diabolical. I assume she's in an asylum now. There was a mustache, I swear. A mustache. One summer in college, I worked in the registrar's office, registering all the incoming freshmen. A professor who was a mentor to me was teaching freshman seminar and asked me to hand pick a class for her. Straight A students. High SATs. Whatever. So I did. 15 students. All named Sara. I wonder if the professor took it in stride after finishing attendance. I suppose you're wondering why I gathered you together here today. Quote. Sara fixed it for ya Sara. 30 Helens agree. I mean, it's awesome because when she got the roster it must have been a truly WTF moment for her. But in the classroom culture that inevitably develops, Sara becomes as meaningful as Miss, and she just full names everybody anyway. A beautiful crime. And truly victimless. I lived in Korea for a bit. When my mom came to visit, I told my Korean girlfriend it was an American custom to greet older women by touching elbows. I told my mom the same story about Korean customs. It was a thing of beauty. They were not pleased. Simple. Elegant. Thoughtfully harmless. The perfect prank. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. It is a thing. Just not in those places. I made fake versions of Internet Explorer that turn your PC off when started in the ICT class at school. Oh god, I thought about that for a second, and truly, sincerely and with all my heart, frick you. I used to disguise batch files on the old XP machines at my school that would load your personal network share with a bunch of folders that contained invalid characters in the file name. The only way to delete them was one by one at the command prompt due to Explorer not knowing how to handle them. I print screened my friend's desktop and hid a bunch of his icons once. He thought his computer just wasn't responding. You can't arrange them by penis. I saw a post about switching around mayo and vanilla pudding, emptied out a mayo jar and cleaned it well. Filled it with a few pots worth of vanilla pudding and took it to uni. Our uni is very lax about eating during the lectures. So I waited until midday when I was sitting in the middle of all my friends and they were all eating their lunch. Cue me taking out the jar of mayo and a spoon. Popping the lid and taking a big ol' spoonful with a grin. At first only the closest ones noticed. But after the third spoon it was like everyone was frozen around me. Pin drop silence. After the fifth spoon someone faux retched and the spell was broken. The looks of sheer terror and disgust was well worth the pain of eating vanilla pudding. I'm a chocolate kinda gal. One of my friends let me know he was going to pull this prank, so I helped him fill a jar with pudding. Then I swapped his jar of mayo pudding with a regular jar of mayo. Chaotic evil. This is like the prank where the guy was going to do a Rice Krispie Kreme eat-off. He made 2 giant Rice Krispie treats and put laxatives in one of the Rice Krispie treats. hoping to give it to the other guy. But the other guy said, "I know this dipshit will pull some dumb shiz on me," and then swapped the Rice Krispie treats. So the joke backfired on him, and he ended up eating his own laxative-laden Rice Krispie treat before spending the whole night on the toilet. I did the same thing at one of my final exams. However, I didn't have enough vanilla pudding and had to use 1 box worth of butterscotch pudding to the 3 boxes of vanilla. The result looked like mayo that had been left in a hot car in the Nevada desert for weeks on end. It looked horrific. It even looked disgusting to my roommates, and they knew the truth. I sat down in the front row, pulled the jar out of my backpack, and started ferociously shoveling it into my mouth. The guy next to me looked over in shock. I hear someone behind me ask what the frick is wrong with that guy. I turn around, still shoveling pudding into my mouth, and grin. I continued for about 5 minutes until even I couldn't stomach the thought of eating any more. The people around me gave me a look of disdain and fear as I left, never having told them that it was not, in fact, mayonnaise. When my brother and I were in middle school, my brother liked to skateboard with our next-door neighbor. One day, my brother and the neighbor took the sheet of plywood from under my brother's upper bunk bed. No one slept in the upper bunk out of the house, and started making a skateboard ramp out of it in the neighbor's adjacent yard. My parents had explicitly told him that he wasn't allowed to do that. Now, in my defense, my brother teased me unmercifully to the point of tears on multiple occasions, so keep in mind that he had had it coming for a long time. Anyway, an evil little plan hatched in my brain. I ran to the upstairs window and yelled down at them. Brother's name. Guess what? Mom knows everything and she is so mad. Then I slammed the window shut and ran to the stairs and waited while watching my mom read the newspaper. A few moments later, my brother walks in the front door looking worried and says, "Mom, I'm so sorry." My mom, who had no idea what was going on, said, "About what?" while slowly putting the newspaper down. "For making a skateboard ramp out of the wood from the bunk bed." "You did what?" At that moment, a wave of shock and realization swept across my brother's face and our eyes met. I let out the biggest, evilest little sister cackle and ran into my room. We are adults now and still laugh about it from time to time. This sounds like something out of Malcolm in the Middle, haha. Dewey screams. My parents worked nights when I was in middle school, and I stayed at my friend's house while my parents were at work. This friend loved to torment me. One day, his 13-year-old brain thought it'd be funny to pee off the deck onto the feral cats in the yard below. I told him I was going to tell his mother. Went inside and told her. When Trevor walks in, just act disgusted. He walked in. She told him how disappointed she was in him having no idea what he did. To which he replied, "I swear to God, Mom, he's lying. I didn't piss on those cats." Watching his face as he realized I told her nothing and he just told on himself was one of the highlights of my youth. The AM supervisor at my office is a short little man who likes to work from a laptop on a rolling adjustable desk. For over a year I gradually raised the height of this desk and watched as he went from sitting on a stool to an adjustable tall task chair to standing. Last week he removed the wheels from the desk to lower the height. He doesn't realize it's adjustable. Now you must lower it all the way. Or just lower it back to the original height over the course of another year. Michael. So what? Does he think he's shrinking? A friend kept trying to steal my sushi off my plate at a sushi restaurant. So while she wasn't looking, I stuffed it full of wasabi, put a bit of fish back on top to cover my tracks, and pretended to not be looking when she started reaching towards it. She tossed it into her mouth, started chewing down, and I just swung my head towards her to say, "You fricked up." 5 minutes of coughing, muffled screaming, and copious amounts of water later. She had learnt her lesson. TBF. She had that coming. She only had herself to blame. I hate when people steal food from my plate, so I salute you. One night I replaced every framed object in my boss's office with a picture of me making a stern face. posters, certificates, photos, etc. Took like 3 hours because he had like 30 framed things in his office. The next day I made sure I was out doing field work to make him sit with it most of the day. He had a lot of foot traffic to look at his office that day. I worked in an office that had 4 offices with shared partitions that had glass at the top. My neighbor wasn't the most observant person and kind of a dick. So I started printing random pictures like Nicolas Cage and setting them on my side of the office facing into his. He never noticed. It got to the point where everyone else in the office would check what photo I had set that week, but he never caught on. He knew. He just pulled a Stanley and collected his paycheck. I farted under the covers, then pointed at the ceiling above my GF and shouted, "Spider." So she'd throw the blankets over her head. Later, when she told her parents, that turned out to be the thing that earned her dad's respect for me. Made him laugh so hard he needed an inhaler. Not me, but a story my mom used to tell on my dad. I don't know what it was about my dad's digestive system, but anything he ate comes out smelling bad. Really bad. As in, after he was in the bathroom no one else could go in there for at least a half hour longer if he forgot to open the window. Honestly. The smell would gag a maggot. Heaven forbid you be the one mom sent in there to open the window when he forgot. One night dad came home from work night shift. Got in bed, stuck his butt out of the covers and passed a really rancid one, then pulled the covers up over his head so he didn't have to smell it. But what he didn't know was that mom had eaten something for supper that was just as noxious on its way out. She waited till he got his head under the covers and got a good seal on it, and let one rip. She said he came out from under those covers like a shot. Gagging the whole time. Thank you for sharing this incredible story. I remember it like it was yesterday. At summer camp my cabin's leaders found a little snake that wasn't doing so well, so they decided to put it in an old terrarium in our cabin. A few of the guys were nervous about it. So the next day when the leaders decided the snake was well enough to release, I asked that they keep quiet about releasing it. When the other guys got back to the cabin and found no snake in the terrarium, chaos ensued. I thought my mom was cool with me having a pet snake. We went weeks without issue. So one night I'm letting it lay on my stomach while I watch TV, and at some point he decided to drop down and check out underneath the couch. His name was Breakfast. Kids are weird, and I say, oh man. Breakfast is under the couch. My mom was sitting maybe 15 feet away in our little office space, and she jumps up on the desk chair and starts screaming about the loose snake. Breakfast wasn't allowed out for TV time much after that. Haha, my mum had the same reaction to my noodle. I told her before I went on a week vacation that I was buying a snake when I came home. True to my word, I showed up with a pet snake after the trip. My mum was okay with him as long as she doesn't have to go near him. She would stand on the opposite side of the room until she realized ball pythons are literally the most docile snakes ever. I have gotten her to try and feed him a few times with my dad's help. Apparently she speaks to him saying, "Here noodles. Want a yummy mouse? I have mouse for you. Noodless." I have also gotten her to hold his tail. But if he looks back at her, at bets are off and she's back across the room, lol. I don't know why she said it was okay for me to get him. I have noodles and a hognose now. She thinks the hoggy is cuter but hates her more because of the attitude.